Hey guys, what's up? I'm here with a review of a cult anthology horror film from 1968, and that movie is Deadtime Stories. Um, Now I heard about this movie a few years ago, while just like randomly surfing on YouTube, and actually talk to you, I'll say more about this, more about how I learned about it later. But, basically, this movie is about a babysitting uncle who tells his nephew three somewhat pornographic horror stories. The first being about witches buying a boy from slavery, the second being about Little Red Riding Hood and a werewolf, and the third being about Goldilocks and the Three Bears. The first segment is probably the darkest segment, and the witches buy this poor boy from slavery so they can use him to help find their lost sister. And it seems innocent enough, but it's not. Not at all. It is the darkest segment in the film. It is not funny whatsoever. I don't think the film is supposed to be funny, but that segment was especially just dark. And with a transformation segment that reminded me somewhat of The Fly or The Thing or Humanoids from the Deep. Although I haven't seen Humanoids from the Deep, it it, it reminded me of that, and it has two different endings actually. One that's serious and one that just made me laugh. So for the first segment, a 3 out of 5. Second segment is about a little girl. Now, this next part I'm about to say is an actual quote from the uncle to the nephew. Actually, she wasn't a little girl. She was a hot-looking high school senior with deep blue eyes and fine, firm breasts, and yeah, that's an actual quote from the film. So, this high school cheerleader is is running an errand for her grandmother, and she happens to run into a werewolf who attacks her on the night that her and her boyfriend plan to have sex for the first time. Which is weird because Little Red Riding Hood is about A, not talking to strangers, and B, it is also a metaphor for like for a woman's like first sexual experience. You know, you could end up having sex with a complete asshole, i.e., the wolf, or you could have sex with someone that's like really kind and might even actually give a shit about you. I couldn't even say that with a straight face, honestly. But you know, he could be the huntsman. He could. Sorry about that little interruption, guys. I got a package in the mail. So, anyway, yeah, the Little Riding Hood apparently is supposed to be a metaphor about that kind of stuff. And although the werewolf is more of a wolf man and less of an actual werewolf, this segment is just ends with the classic line, "What big teeth you have." For this segment, a 5 out of 5. The third segment, easily the best segment in the film. It's a perfect blend of horror and humor, it being about the three bears, bears spelled Baers, who escape from a mental asylum and return to their home after thwarting the police captains Jack Be Nimble and Jack Be Quick. Yes, I'm not lying to you guys. In the woods, to their house in the woods, to find that a telekinetic girl similar to Carrie, named Goldilocks, is living in their house in Animeville. Animeville. They decide, they all decide to live together. The three bears decide to live with the girl that can cause earthquakes when she orgasms. but the police are hot on their trail. That's all I can really say without spoiling the entire segment. Honestly, it's amazing. It is really really funny. Um, this film reminded me a lot of Tales from the Dark Side. Although Tales from the Dark Side was a lot more darker, was way darker than this movie. Because it's about a child and tales of horror, and this film has a very very catchy theme song, which is the way I found out about this movie because I heard the theme song on this guy's list of like the top horror movie themes, and I heard it and I'm like, oh my gosh, this song sounds so awesome. It's like it sounds like a classic like 80s hair metal song, and it's so cool and it's about tales. So I'd known about this movie for maybe a year or two, and I finally watched it today, just out of like impulse. I was just going through my watch list on IMDb, and I decided, oh, I could probably find that on YouTube in a few seconds. So, and I did, and I watched it. This film sometimes has good effects and decent acting, and other times doesn't. But at least it wasn't forever. It isn't like Forever Evil, where it's bad in an unwatchable way. This movie's bad in a very funny, enjoyable way. I mean, don't complain if a movie has bad acting and effects when it's a cult film from the 80s, especially the 80s. You shouldn't expect Gone with the Wind or Citizen Kane from any of these films. On the gore meter, 1 being something like The Corpse Grinders and 10 being something like Brain Dead, this film is a solid 4. It's a 4 for me. Honestly, I didn't think it was that violent. I mean, there were a few things in there, like a few severing of limbs, but other than that, it's not really that bad. I mean, honestly, this movie is like something I would show to children just to get them into horror films. Okay, that was a bit okay. Not exactly that, but I mean, this is one of those horror films that if you want your kids to become horror film fans, this is one of those movies that you could possibly show them. Although there's a pretty good amount of nudity and sex in this movie. I mean, I'm anti-censorship. I don't really give a shit about that, but some people do. So either this movie will have you laughing, either it will have you in tears from laughing or in tears from the horrible acting. Either way, it's a good movie, enjoyable. Definitely one I would suggest to any anthology film fans, any cult film fans. 4 out of 5 stars. I'm Biscuit Boo, 6'9", signing off.